Welcome back to New Day. This morning, many are calling for the resignation of Veterans Affairs Secretary Eric Shinseki. This follows a grilling that he faced on Capitol Hill. The White House right now is standing by the secretary. And this all comes, as you'll remember, after a CNN investigation uncovered some veterans died waiting months for hospital care and really a broken VA healthcare system. Listen to what the secretary said yesterday.
Any allegation, any adverse incident like this makes me mad as hell. I could use stronger language here, Mr. Chairman, but in deference to the committee, I won't.
Richard Socarides, Margaret Hoover, they're both here. Richard, a senior advisor to former President Bill Clinton, now a writer for TheNewYorker.com, and a Democratic strategist. Margaret, a CNN political commentator and Republican consultant. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
So you listened to the secretary yesterday. What did you make of his testimony? I guess that's the best question to ask right now.
I mean, you know, I thought it was, first of all, let me say, this is a very serious problem. It needs to be addressed seriously, and I think they are taking it seriously. I think President Obama is taking it seriously. I think his testimony was candid and forthright. I think what emerges for me is that this is not really a leadership problem. This is a resources problem. We do not give enough money.
What makes you confident of that?
Well, because I think, Congress wants our veterans to have the best care available, and they should, but they refuse to allocate, the money that's necessary. I mean, in the last decade, we've had we've prosecuted 2 wars. We're treating all kinds of things we never treated, like PTSD. And the Congress is not allocating more resources. I mean, rather than get mad at the people in charge, they should allocate more resources.
Money is not the answer to accountability and doing it the right way. These waiting lists, if they're true, they don't go to having more money.
And if that is true, that is a very serious, specific issue of fraud, and those people need to be dealt with, and they maybe need to be dealt with criminally. But there's no suggestion that the people who work at Veterans Affairs lack the heart. They lack resources is what they lack.
My dear friend Richard here is speaking almost with the same temperament that the secretary spoke with yesterday, which is he's mad as hell and he's not going to take it anymore. And that's the problem, is that I think your temperament, his temperament, doesn't match the severity of the problem. You can say you're mad as hell, but you've got to show that you're mad as hell, and you've got to show you're doing something about it. An investigation, which is one of 20, 30 investigations that have been done to look into the problems at VA, is simply not enough. You have to have accountability. Somebody's got to get fired, at least one person. And I'm not saying Shinseki should be fired, but somebody's got to go. And the president should speak to this directly. He should go visit those healthcare centers. They should really shine a spotlight on this and show specifically what they're going to do to fix it. Is it a bipartisan commission of Republicans and Democrats to review the VA, to look at reforms, to pass legislation? There is legislation out there that give the secretary
Where were all these ideas when the same things were going
enthusiasm.
on under a Republican administration?
Well, Jim Nicholson was actually a pretty engaged VA secretary.
Had the same problems.
But you're right. This is a bipartisan problem. And you know what? To your point, ideologically, we have a little Twitter war going on right now, Chris Cuomo. And here's the deal.
It's one-sided war.
Here's the deal.
By the way.
Well, you started it out in the hall before this segment even started.
Oh, yeah.
You were saying Republicans want to eliminate the VA.
I'm wondering, because it has been suggested to me, that the VA is being seen as a metaphor for what's wrong with Obamacare. It's big government health care.
Leviathan.
And that it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So what are you suggesting? You don't want our vets to get free health care?
Yeah, that's
you want
exactly
to
what
dismantle
I'm saying.
the VA?
Well, you're putting words in my mouth. Yeah, Republicans, that's crazy. I mean, do you think John McCain doesn't want veterans to get health care?
No, but I don't think John McCain controls your party.
It is a travesty, the notion that our veterans, people who put their lives on the line, are not getting swift and efficient and excellent health care. That everybody agrees about that. This is not a partisan issue.
Here's the thing.
But if you have Leviathan, if you have bureaucracy that is so big, 150
Leviathan
medical
is a
centers.
Huge sea monster, by the way, is what she's calling the VA.
Let me just stop because I want us to cut through it. Because I want us to cut through it. The USA Today put it really well, saying that more anger is not what is needed. More than anger is needed. Us pounding our fists, the media being angry, people speaking out, that's not what's needed. Action is needed. You both are a product of Washington. What gives you any confidence that anything really is going to change?
Well, I'm hopeful that Congress will appropriate the resources necessary to end these long waits. The truth is that
you think purely throwing more money at this is
listen,
I
think that we have that the healthcare system in general in the U.S. has a lot of issues. One of them is sometimes that it's hard to get to see a doctor, especially if you're referred to a specialist. I think that, we need to put more resources in healthcare generally, but for me, veterans should take preference. If you've served your country, you should not have to worry about waiting 14 days.
No one's going to disagree with you. Then why are we where we are?
We are where we are because the Republicans in Congress don't want to spend money
That's crazy.
on this.
Come on.
So why are we where we are?
Because there are systemic problems in this bureaucracy that can be fixed easily through a couple of different things.
Fixed easily.
You can, the secretary, there's legislation that can be passed that would strengthen the secretary of the VA's hand so he could fire people, give them more accountability, and make it easier to remove directors. You could have a bipartisan commission to review where all these systemic flaws exist in VA. This is the largest medical system in the country. There's a lot of problems with it. It needs to be reviewed systematically, not in a bipartisan way, so that it doesn't become a political football. And there's legislation that could be passed right now.
Let's turn the lens on
president could
ourselves
ask
as well.
all of those things to be done, and by not asking, it makes him look aloof and out of touch, just like it did on the BP oil spill, just like on the Obamacare website problems, and he risks falling into the same trap on an issue that he purportedly, and I believe him, cares a lot about.
Let me turn the lens on ourselves just for a second. Do you think that when there is anger, and there is rightful anger here, everyone is too quick to jump to say the secretary should step down?
Listen, as I said before, I don't think it's a question of leadership. I think it's a question of resources. And I think if the veteran...
Does someone need to be fired?
If those wait lists were fabricated, and if there was intentional misleading and intentional skirting of the rules, of course someone should be fired. It's a crime.
If the allegations are true and there's falsified
exactly right. It's fraud.
Paperwork,
and people should be prosecuted. Absolutely.
Are Republicans too quick to jump to try to say the secretary should step down?
Look, yes, I think that's true. I think you need to look at it first, but somebody's head needs to roll. I think the president's been too slow about assigning accountability, but I am wary of too quickly saying somebody needs to be fired, because the problem doesn't always lie at the top. The problem is in these systemic, bureaucratic systems that are allowing these bad things to continue to happen.
I think you'll see the president moving very quickly, though. I think he's put one of his top
What's been going on?
What's your definition of quick?
Couple of weeks, matter of weeks. I mean, I think that especially given, the Obama administration in all candor does not have the...
A vet that we had on the show earlier today said they should have concrete action laid out by the president before Memorial Day.
Absolutely.
Sounds
That's
good.
great.
I think that's right.
Yeah, advice to the president right here on New Day.
Not gonna happen.
Thanks, guys.
And you called the VA a Leviathan. That's all I'm saying. We'll take it to Twitter after that. I want to turn right